Hi, I'm JP DiMartino, Communications Advisor at the Veterans Benefits Administration. We're here in Washington, D.C. today, and I'm about to have a conversation with Ms. Margarita Devlin, Principal Deputy Undersecretary for Benefits, about the VA Solid Start program. We entered the premises with our masks on, but since we will be maintaining social distance during the length of this interview, we're going to go ahead and remove our masks so we can have a conversation. This is Transition Talk, the place to go for all of the latest and accurate information you need to help support you during your transition from the military to civilian life. Again, I'm here with Ms. Margarita Devlin, Principal Deputy Undersecretary for Benefits here at the VA. We're going to be talking about a very important program today, VA Solid Start. So, Ms. Devlin, why don't we begin by telling us about the Solid Start program?
Absolutely. Solid Start is a really important program for veterans who are in their first year after separation from the military. And if you're a transitioning service member or a veteran who's recently transitioned, you know this to be true. It can be a kind of an overwhelming time. There's a lot going on. And now, with the uncertainty imposed by the pandemic, there's even more uncertainty. We're in a totally different landscape, which makes this program even that much more important to help you navigate that first year after separation from the military.
And Ms. Devlin, can you tell us how the VA Solid Start program started?
Thank you for that question, JP. The Solid Start program was implemented on December 2nd of 2019. It was in response to Executive Order 13822, which seeks to eliminate veteran suicides. It especially focuses in on that first year after separation from the military because that is a very high-stress time for our veterans. It can be one of the most stressful times after separation from the military. And the purpose of the program is to connect with these veterans, and by the way, there are about 200,000 a year or more who separate from the military, and we want to reach every single one of those veterans that we can get a hold of and reach out to them at 3 key points in that first year after separation. In the first 90 days, and then again at around the 6-month point, and another follow-up at around 1 year. And our goal is to make sure that they get consistent, caring contact from the VA. Our highly trained VA representatives reach out to them and ask them how their transition is going, and they also make sure that they're connecting them to all the veterans' benefits that they might be entitled to.
And Ms. Devlin, can you tell us what happens on these calls?
Absolutely. So during the call, the representative will start out by really asking the veteran what's going on in their transition at that moment, because the key thing about these conversations is that they should be driven by what the veteran is experiencing at that time when they receive the call. So the veteran could be doing fine, but maybe experiencing some issues with their education benefits or with employment or finances or housing. So we want to make sure we start by building a rapport with that veteran and then connecting them to the services and benefits that will help them overcome any obstacles they might be experiencing in that moment. Also, the other thing that we do is we make sure that that veteran is aware of some time-sensitive benefits that they have to elect within a certain amount of time, or the ability to elect will expire. And those benefits, for example, include dental care and life insurance benefits. And we've heard of veterans not making those elections in time because they just lost track with everything else going on in their separation. So we want to make sure that they don't lose track of those benefits, and that if they're interested, they're able to elect them.
And Ms. Devlin, can you tell us about the credentials for the callers?
Absolutely. So in order to start this program in December, what we did is we selected a group of highly trained, experienced VA representatives who were already working in VBA, who already knew a great deal about all of our benefits. And then we put them in a special training program to help them understand, first of all, how to engage in a cold call, open-ended conversation, how to build rapport, how to pick up on different cues in this type of a conversation. And also we made sure they were educated on other benefits that they hadn't been quite as experienced with. For example, mental health care and healthcare services.
Very good, and it truly shows the dedication that we have here to this process, that we are specially training callers specifically for this program. And Ms. Devlin, can you tell us if the same person will be calling the veterans each time during that first year?
It's not always going to be the same agent that calls the veteran. However, because there is an initial rapport building in that first call, if the veteran would prefer to speak to the same representative each of the 3 calls, they can ask for that representative by name. And we will do our best to pair that veteran back with the same representative, because we do realize sometimes that relationship can start to build, and we like to keep continuity.
And do you send emails in advance of calls?
We do, actually. We get an information data feed from Department of Defense, and that data feed will give us all of the contact information that Department of Defense had for that veteran before they separated from the military. So that gives us typically a phone number and an email address. We will send an introductory email address informing that veteran that the VA Solid Start program will be calling them. It's really important to us that they know that this call is coming because we really want them to take the call. So we send that introductory email, and we actually send follow-up emails afterwards. So after that first call happens, the agent will annotate which benefit programs they talked about, which concerns for the veteran they addressed, and they will follow up with an email. And they will, in that email, succinctly remind the veteran of what they talked about and give them the links to any application sites or other resource sites that would be helpful to help that veteran in their journey.
And how does VA Solid Start make a difference in veterans' lives?
You know, it is truly making a difference in veterans' lives, and we've gotten some really great feedback from veterans who we've spoken to. But I will tell you, the biggest benefit, I think, of Solid Start for our veterans, based on feedback we've gotten, is that it's truly connecting them to everything that they need to establish the basics. Their housing, making sure they have stable housing, making sure their finances are under control, making sure they have health care that they need, making sure if they are in crisis or even have any mental health issues that they're getting the mental health services that they need. All of those basic requirements of sort of leading a stable life, employment, education, all those pillars of success, if you will, for a veteran to have a smooth transition in that first year. Those are the things we're connecting that veteran to. And I'll tell you, one of the really big benefits I think of this program has been that when we call a veteran, we never know if they're going to be sort of doing really well and maybe just need a couple of benefits that they may be entitled to, or they could actually be in crisis. And what we found so far this year, 18 veterans have been in crisis at the time that we called them, and we were able to transfer them, warm transfer them to the crisis line so that they get immediate crisis intervention. I shudder to think what would have happened if we hadn't had the program and we hadn't reached those 18 veterans at the time that they answered our call.
And let's be thankful that we actually do. And ma'am, can you tell us about the success of VA Solid Start to date?
We have a little less than a year under our belt for the Solid Start program. We've contacted and engaged with almost 70,000 veterans so far, which equates to over a 56% response rate. Now, it's important to note that when we started this program, we didn't know what kind of a response rate we would get, but we knew we had to set a target. So our target going into this program was 15%, 1-5. Our goal was to get 15% of these veterans that we were calling to answer the phone and engage with our representatives. And to see that we got over a 56% rate really speaks to the success of this program.
And ma'am, being that VA Solid Start is a suicide prevention program, can you tell us how we're prioritizing mental health?
Yes, that's a great question. So when we started this program, we knew we needed to prioritize veterans with mental health issues. In our data feed that we get from Department of Defense, we are able to identify which veterans in their last year of military service had a mental health diagnosis or received mental health care services. We prioritize those veterans. We reach out to them faster, and we try our hardest to make sure that they get connected to mental health care in the VA system. So far, we've contacted nearly 17,000 of these priority veterans, and the response rate for those veterans is even higher than when you look at the general veteran population in Solid Start. Our response rate is nearly 73% for our priority veterans. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, 18 of our veterans, when we called them, were in crisis, and we connected them to the crisis line and got them immediate crisis intervention services.
And ma'am, do all veterans get Solid Start calls?
Yes, they do. All veterans who leave the military are eligible to get a Solid Start call. And again, we only started this program in December. But if you've left the military since December and you haven't got a call, I'm going to give you a call to action on how to get with us. The way this works, as I mentioned earlier, we get a data feed from Department of Defense. So the phone number and email address that we get in that data feed is based on the last information they knew about our veterans while they were serving. Sometimes veterans change their phone numbers and email addresses. So we want to make sure if you haven't gotten the call that you reach out to us, and here's how you can do that. Call our main call center at 1-800-827-1000 and ask to be transferred to Solid Start, and that way we can get you connected.
Even if someone has a other than honorable discharge, would they still receive a solid start call?
Yes, we do call all veterans, regardless of their character or discharge. And our representatives are very well trained to understand the difference between character of discharge, which type of benefits they might be eligible for in the VA system, and also how to navigate benefits outside of the VA system, for example, with state, local, county, and community-based resources.
And that's such an important point to make because we do view ourselves as one team with one mission with our state and local partners. And ma'am, are calls confidential?
Yes, these calls are confidential. We receive this data from Department of Defense to call these veterans, and we do not share this data with any other parties. The call is completely confidential.
And how do we protect the privacy of our veterans?
That's a great question. When we call our veterans, we will never, our Solid Start agents will never ask for private information such as social security number or anything like that. Also, when you get our call from a Solid Start agent, it will say Veterans Affairs on the caller ID. That's your first clue that this is an official call from the federal government. However, if during the call the veteran asks, for example, to establish a claim or for the representative to look up their claim in the system, we will conduct an extra layer of identity proofing just to make sure that when we made the call that we got the person that we intended to reach on the other line.
Should veterans expect contact other than solid start calls?
That's a great question. So VA really works hard to make sure we conduct comprehensive outreach to all of our veterans. And this includes Solid Start, which is focused on that first year after separation from the military. But we also have a program called Concierge for Care, which is managed out of the Healthcare Administration. And that program seeks to reach veterans right before and right after separation, specifically to try to connect them to VA healthcare. Now, our Solid Start agents will also have information to share about healthcare eligibility, but we just want to make sure we do everything in our power to connect veterans to all benefits. There may also be other calls that might be specific to, for example, women veterans, and making sure that women veterans are aware of the healthcare services that are available specific for them. Those are not associated with Solid Start, but they're just an example of other ways in which VA as a whole makes a sincere effort to reach out to all of our veterans to make sure they're aware of all the services available to them.
And what other transition support programs does VA have?
Great question. So one of the reasons we invented Solid Start as a program in response to the executive order was because we learned that the pre-separation transition assistance program, while really robust, really wasn't enough to help bridge the gap after separation when sort of reality hits, right?
Right.
But let me talk about what we do pre-separation. The Department of Defense has a transition assistance program. It was actually established by law in 2011, really fully implemented around 2013. So if you're watching this right now and you separated before then, you probably didn't go through this new program. But the transition assistance program is a full week of educational programming to help transitioning service members understand not only their VA benefits, but also how to obtain employment, how to potentially start their own business through entrepreneurship, how to build their own resilience, their financial strategies for financial resilience as well. All those programs are part of a week-long event. VA's portion of that week-long event is a whole day on VA benefits and services. That's the part we administer. During that full day, our representatives teach our transitioning service members about the benefits that they may be entitled to upon separation. It is a full day that covers everything: healthcare, mental health, every benefit that VA has to offer. We've gotten really great feedback on this program. Our satisfaction rates are above 95% for all of these classes. And sometimes people ask me, well, if you're doing all that in the pre-separation, then why do we have to do Solid Start? And honestly, what we've learned is that after separation, when reality hits, everything that the service members might have thought they were going to do in their separation, that they planned for, everything can change. Everything can change based on employment situations. Right now with the pandemic, pretty much everybody's plans potentially could have changed. So what Solid Start does is help that veteran understand what's available to them right now. Because during TAP, it's like drinking from a fire hose. A lot of information coming at you while you're trying to still perform your mission in the military, while you're still trying to figure out what you're going to do when you get out. It's a lot to consume while making all those decisions. So we want to make sure that you know exactly what's available to you at the time that you need it.
And are there any other programs to help support transitioning service members?
Yes, we have a wide variety, a very holistic portfolio of veterans benefits, some of which the transitioning service member can start working on while they're still active duty in the military. We've got a veteran readiness and employment program, which helps veterans with service-connected disabilities prepare for employment and can help them with the educational requirements to become competitive. We have the GI Bill programs for education to help veterans achieve their educational goals. We also have a home loan guarantee program that helps veterans to buy their house with no down payment. We also have service-connected disability, pension, fiduciary programs. The wide variety of programs that we have for veterans is so holistic and so comprehensive, which is part of why we have Solid Start, to make sure you don't miss out on a benefit that might be useful to you.
Ma'am, where can veterans go to get more information on the Solid Start program?
Yes, of course. We have a website. The address will be appearing on the screen below me. And also, you can always call us. And I always say that, while Solid Start is specifically aimed at veterans in that first year after separation, we have a national call center that any veteran can reach out to. If you're hearing about this and you're wondering if there are benefits for you, there probably are, regardless of which era you served in. So please call us at 1-800-827-1000, and we can connect you to any of the benefits that you might be entitled to. We can also connect you to the Solid Start program if you're within that first year after separation.
And what would you like to share as Solid Start marks its 1-year anniversary?
Well, it is a really important milestone. As we reach the 1-year anniversary, we're taking stock, and we're really evaluating the successes of the program, taking a look at outcomes of the veterans that we've called, looking at other data and doing other analysis, because we want to make sure we strengthen the program. So we want to look at areas for opportunities for improvement, and ultimately our goal is to make sure that we are supporting the overall health and well-being of our veterans. So that's what we really want to do, is are we doing that? How well are we doing it? And how can we do it better?
And do you have any final thoughts?
I guess my last comment would be, take the call. If you see us calling and it says Veterans Affairs and you're in that first year after separation, take the call. It's normal to have bumps in the road in that first year after separation. That's why this program exists. So don't be afraid. Take the call. I think you'll find our VA representatives are professional, they are courteous, they are empathetic, and they care about you and your success in life. So take the call. Let us talk to you about all the wonderful VA benefits that we have to offer you that you might be eligible for.
So it was a pleasure to be here and speak with you about this program today. It truly is a critical piece for every transitioning veteran, and this information is vital for everyone to be able to have a smooth process and go on to live their version of the American dream. Ma'am, thank you so much. I'm JP DiMartino. I'm with Principal Deputy Undersecretary for Benefits at the VA, Ms. Margarita Devlin, and this was Transition Talk. Don't forget, take the call.